The ugly wife's maid can use the attic. This room is for me. Why must someone tell me something like this? Since I built this house after all, my mother-in-law stormed into the new home I had constructed under my name and made us move in together. Well, that's a bit harsh. Would you dare respond to me? Amazing. Normally, your mother-in-law, you just give it up without saying anything to me. Not at all. You wouldn't just give it up normally, certainly not to you as my daughter-in-law who has been torturing me. I kept having arguments with my mother-in-law for a long, but eventually it got to be problematic. If you're willing to live in the attic, just hurry up and say you'll give me this house, stupid, ugly wife. My tolerance finally gave out at my mother-in-law's comment. Enough about the ugly and maid things. I understand if you're going to say that much. That's all there is to it. Please move into this house, mother-in-law. Living. It would have been better if you had just done what I said from the beginning. I guess I'll be residing in this place from now on, she answered. My mother-in-law was ecstatic to hear that I was moving. For now, she can be content, but let me clarify that I have never once said that I would give up the house. I am the one who owns this place after all. You have tormented me so much as a daughter-in-law, and I will never forgive you. I made a deep-seated vow to exact revenge on my mother-in-law as soon as I left the house. Faith is my name. 4 years ago, I got married to Peter, who works at a car dealership and is my age. Faith, do you ever think about wanting a home of your own? Yeah, but we still don't have enough money saved up, do we? I hope to make more money. We live in a small flat, and I work as a designer at a big advertising agency, but we still can't afford to buy a house. Dreaming of one day constructing our own house, we passed our days. We rarely quarrel and have a nice connection. But my mother-in-law, Peter's mother, and I don't get along at all. Are you Peter's wife? Your face appears to be unfortunate. What impressed Peter about someone like you, I wonder? During our marriage introduction, my mother-in-law made a comment to me that I can still clearly recall. At that point, all I could do was grin and bear it. She would say things like, "Listen, I've never been short of money," as time went on. My husband was a director of a corporation, but he passed away. We received a sizable sum in severance money. Are you not envious? Hey, give it up. It's awkward. That kind of brag is unnecessary. It's okay because it's the truth. My family was well off, and we had a maid as well. Well, while we're talking about it, would you be interested in working as my housemaid? No, thank you. I'd rather not. This was the first time I'd met someone who bragged so much about being wealthy. From the way my mother-in-law talks, she must have been quite rich, but Peter doesn't usually talk about such things. He probably grew up seeing his mother and decided he didn't want to be like that. Hey, what's up? You're zoning out. Oh, sorry, I just got lost in thought about the past. While talking about money with my husband, I inadvertently remembered meeting my mother-in-law. I should stop thinking about my mother-in-law too much. Our apartment and my in-laws' house are about a 30-minute walk apart, but I guess my husband keeps things under control. My mother-in-law doesn't visit us very often. We meet a few times a year, and that's completely fine. I thought as long as we keep a reasonable distance, there should be no harm to me. However, due to a certain incident, I ended up being terribly mistreated by my mother-in-law. It happened 6 months later when I returned from work. My husband was sitting in a chair with a somber face. What's with that serious look, Peter? What's wrong? When I asked, my husband knelt down and started crying. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I've been fired from my job. What? But why? The company was involved in some wrongdoing and it came to light. Because of that, profits fell, and they decided to downsize. Since my sales performance wasn't very good, I was also targeted. So it's a layoff? I can't blame my husband for this. It can't be helped. We'll just have to find another place, but our income will decrease. Who knows when we'll be able to buy a home if we keep paying rent for the apartment? Yeah, that's true, but we have no choice but to try and cut back, right? Peter is right. From now on, my income will be the only reliable source. While I was wondering what to do, my husband suggested that we could live at his parents' house. Hey, you might not like this, but how about we ask my mom if we can live at my parents' house for a while? That way we can save on rent. Indeed, that would save on rent, and maybe even allow us to save a little bit of money. I guess it's a case of necessity. Honestly, I didn't want to live with my mother-in-law, but after discussing it with my husband, we decided to move to his parents' house. 1 week later, we moved out of our apartment and headed to my in-laws' house. Good to see you. Welcome. Thank you. We'll be in your care for a while. I met my mother-in-law after a long time and felt scared, even though she hadn't done anything. Seeing me like that, my mother-in-law smirked. You're staying in this house, so you understand, right? Sorry. What do you mean? Well, it's obvious. You'll be doing the cleaning, laundry, and shopping, right? Of course. It's only natural you'll do at least that much. Right now, you can use any room you like, but please start with cleaning the living room. With that, my mother-in-law left for her room. Well, if I'm staying here, I'll do what I can. I almost let out my inner thoughts, but managed to hold back. I work too, and surely my mother-in-law must understand that. I thought that would be enough, but I was naive. The very next day, the severe harassment from my mother-in-law began. Aren't you coming back from work too late? Look, the laundry is piling up and please clean the bathroom today. Also, hurry up and make dinner. I'm so hungry I could die. If she's going to say that much, it wouldn't hurt her to do some of it herself. But I don't have the courage to say such things to my mother-in-law. It would be troublesome if I upset her and she kicked me out. I'm sorry. I'll do it right away. Maybe it was wrong to obediently follow her at that moment. From that day on, the harassment from my mother-in-law escalated day by day. Bring me some tea. I'm tired. Give me a massage. Every day after work, I was overworked by my mother-in-law and had no time to rest. I wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. I wished for that, but it seemed my husband hadn't found a job yet, so we couldn't leave his parents' house. Mother-in-law, I'm sorry, but I come home late because of work. If possible, could you help with the household chores during the day? Huh? Why do I have to do it? If you're going to say such things, you might as well quit your job. She told me to quit my job. It's not so easy to just be told that. That night, before going to bed, I told my husband what his mother had said. Your mother told me if I can't manage the housework, I should quit my job. Could you maybe ask her to help a little with the chores? It's hard to say, but isn't it okay if you just quit your job? What are you saying? You haven't found a job yet, and if I quit, we really couldn't live, could we? It'll be okay. We'll make it somehow.
My husband said it would be okay, as if it was someone else's problem, but there was no sign that he was actually looking for a job. Even if I come home early, he's just lounging on the sofa, and on weekends, he's just drinking beer from morning. From that time, I started to think that I couldn't rely on my husband. Of course, he hasn't told his mother anything. 3 months have passed since then, and the harassment from my mother-in-law continued as usual. At that rate, my mind and body would really break. With that thought, I decided to forcefully buy a new house. When I told my husband about buying a new house, he replied indifferently, that's fine, isn't it? I immediately took my husband to a real estate agent. If we were to build a new house from scratch, we would have to live with my mother-in-law for at least another 6 months. I couldn't wait that long. I chose a newly built home and signed a contract that day. Finally, I would be free from my mother-in-law's harassment. But my plans crumbled easily. 2 weeks later, it was the first weekend since we moved into the new house. It had been hectic with work and moving in, so I thought I might organize some boxes today. Just as I was thinking this, the doorbell rang. Huh? Who could it be? We've just moved in. Wondering who it could be, I checked the monitor of the intercom. What? Why? The monitor showed my mother-in-law. I hadn't given her the address. How did she know where we live? Feeling a sense of dread, I spoke to her through the intercom. Mother-in-law, it's been a while. What a nice house. I've come for a visit. Hurry up and open the door, will you? It's quite messy right now. If you're here to visit, maybe another time would be better. Just open it quickly. Hearing my mother-in-law shout, I inadvertently obeyed her. It reminded me of the times when I was dominated by her at my in-laws' house. When I opened the front door, my mother-in-law ignored me and marched straight into the house. Ah, the smell of a new house. It's nice, isn't it? What brings you here today? My mother-in-law ignored my question and began walking around the new house, inspecting every corner as if appraising it. After a while, she started to say, "Which room is yours?" It's the room right up the stairs. You have quite good taste, don't you? I thought that room was nice too. What did that mean? I couldn't understand the meaning behind my mother-in-law's words ever since she arrived. Mother-in-law, I'll ask again. What is the reason for your visit today? It's obvious, isn't it? I came to check on it because I'm moving in here. What? An involuntary, pathetic sound escaped me. Living here? I haven't heard anything about that. I've decided I will live in your room. It's wasted on an ugly maid of a wife like you. No, wait a minute. That's so sudden. What? Do you have a complaint? Then I guess you have no choice but to use the attic. That should settle it, right? No, that was not what I meant. After all, I bought this house. However, my mother-in-law didn't know this and seemed to believe her son bought it. Peter earned the money to buy this house, didn't he? Then it's only natural that I live here, isn't it? Besides, your mother-in-law is asking you to give up the room. Isn't it just common sense for you, the daughter-in-law, to obediently hand it over? Like hell, that's common sense. The one lacking common sense is her. It's unthinkable to just show up and start living together. The arguments with my mother-in-law continued, but she showed no signs of giving up. Gradually, I grew exhausted, and it became a nuisance to even deal with her. If you're okay with the attic, then say so. Hurry up and give me this house, stupid, ugly wife. Her words finally broke my patience. Enough with the ugly and maid talk. If that's how it's going to be, I understand. Huh? I understand. Then, mother-in-law, please live in this house. I will be leaving. You should have just obeyed me from the start. LOL. Well, I'll be living in this house now. LOL. My mother-in-law was overjoyed to hear that I was leaving. She could be happy for a while, but let me make it clear. I have never once said I would give up the house. The ownership of this house is mine. I will never forgive you who have relentlessly tormented me as your daughter-in-law. At that moment, I swore to get my revenge on my mother-in-law. I decided to leave the newly built house that very day I had just bought and move into a new home. I never expected to end up in such a situation. Hey, FYI, what are you doing? You're packing up. I'm leaving this house. While I was packing up my room, Peter came in and spoke to me. Seeing his carefree expression made me even more furious. After all, It's because he didn't seriously look for a job that I had to endure being overworked by my mother-in-law at her house for so long. What, you're leaving? What's going on all of a sudden? We just bought the house. I'm fed up with both you and your mother. Your mother treats me like a maid, and that's why I felt I bought this house. But then she comes over, saying nonsensical things like I should live in the attic. That should be fine, right? We're family. Hearing my husband's words made something snap inside me. It should be fine because we're family? Don't be ridiculous. For the first time, I raised my voice in anger at my husband. Don't mess with me. I felt sorry for you when you were laid off, but how long are you planning to keep being a NEET? You don't even seem to be looking for a job, and all you do is lay around every day. If you had so much free time, you could have taken care of your mother instead of me. I can't take this anymore. I'm going to divorce you. Divorce? Wait, please. I really was looking for a job. Then why has it taken so long? Working full-time isn't the only kind of job. I could have tolerated it if you at least tried to find a part-time job, but you didn't even do that. The conditions were bad and the pay was low. Making excuses to not work is just being spoiled. If you really felt sorry about having no income, you could at least get a part-time job. In the end, it seems like you only thought of me as nothing more than an ATM. I expected him to say something back, but he remained silent. So, your silence means you agree with the divorce, right? Oh, okay. If you want to get divorced that much, let's get a divorce. What a pathetic man. If he had any pride, he'd rush out right now and look for any job, even a part-time one. Well, it's pointless to say anything more now. I had always kept a divorce form just in case. And I handed it to my husband. Here, sign here right now. I'll leave once I get your signature. His hands seemed to tremble as he signed the divorce form with shaky handwriting. There, I've signed it. I received the divorce form from my husband and checked that he had signed it properly. Good, you've signed it properly. I'll file this at the courthouse. Also, I won't ask for alimony. I don't ever want to deal with you again in my life. With those words, I left the new house. I went straight to the courthouse and submitted the divorce form. Now, I am a complete stranger to both my husband and my mother-in-law. Now that we are no longer related by family, I won't show any mercy to those two. I'll make sure they thoroughly fall into hell. After leaving the city hall, I headed to the real estate agency. Entering the office, I immediately said to the clerk, I want to sell my house. The clerk, surprised by my sudden approach, attended to me. Do you have the registry book? Yes, here it is. I'll take a look. As the clerk opened the registry book, he froze. What's wrong? Is there a reason it can't be sold? What's the matter? Well, forgive me for saying this, but you've just bought this house recently, right? It hasn't even been half a year since it was built. Yes, I no longer need it. I don't need a house where those people live. Rather than having it misused, I'd rather someone else live in it. When I explained this to the clerk, he seemed to understand my situation and immediately began the process for selling. With this, the contract is complete. We'll contact you once we find a buyer. Understood. Thank you very much. After leaving the real estate office, I decided to go back to my parents' house. My parents were quite surprised by my sudden return, but when I explained the situation and told them about the divorce, they were even more upset than I was. They've hurt you so much. I'll never forgive them. I'll make them pay. Stop it, Dad. Besides, I don't want to be involved with them anymore, so can you just stay calm? It was hard to calm my father down, but he eventually regained his composure. For the time being, I decided to stay at my parents' house. 2 weeks later, by now, those two probably don't even know I've sold the house and are carelessly enjoying their days. While I was drinking coffee in the living room and thinking, the phone rang. Here it comes. Hello? Has it been decided? Yes, we found a buyer. However, the buyer doesn't like the fence and has requested that it be demolished before they move in. Oh, is that all? They could have done that without asking me. That's totally fine. They can do whatever they like. Besides, I no longer have any right to object. Well, your ex-husband and his mother are still living there. That's fine. Originally, when the house was sold, they were supposed to move out, but thanks to the kindness of the clerk, they were allowed to stay until a buyer was found, right? How about this? Please let me know the day of the demolition. I'll be there to oversee it. I was told that the demolition of the fence at the house would take place next Saturday. After hanging up the phone, I couldn't stop laughing. I could picture those two panicking. The time for revenge has finally come. I eagerly awaited that day. And then the day of the demolition arrived. The demolition of the fence was scheduled to start at 8 a.m. I was so excited that I couldn't sleep much the previous night, and I arrived an hour before the construction was to start. I couldn't wait for it to begin. When I checked the time, it was 7:50 a.m. One by one, the workers gathered, and I could see the real estate agent among them. He seemed to have noticed me and approached with a smile. Thank you for coming out here today. No problem. I've been looking forward to this. Looking forward to it? Never mind that. It's just something on my side. Don't worry. By the way, are you sure we shouldn't inform the two people inside about the demolition? That's fine. It actually works out better this way. Please go ahead and start. I called out to the workers as if I were a site supervisor. Perhaps moved by that, the workers began to activate the heavy machinery and started demolishing the fence. What? What is going on? What are you doing? Stop it right now. Predictably, the noise was too much. My mother-in-law came rushing out of the house in a panic, and my ex-husband was right behind her. Oh, mother-in-law, long time no see. Have you been well? Faith, you stop them right now. What? Sorry, what did you say? It's a bit noisy around here. I can hardly hear you. Of course, I could hear my mother-in-law's voice. I asked her again deliberately, and she turned red with anger. I get it. This is your doing. You think you're getting back at me for kicking you out by doing something so selfish. I'll call the police. She's welcome to call the police if she wants. But then the only ones getting arrested would be them, I told my mother-in-law confidently. If you call the police, aren't you the ones who will get arrested? What? What are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. As we argued, the demolition continued smoothly. It seemed they had managed to demolish the fence roughly. Noticing this, my mother-in-law became even more enraged. My house. I will never forgive you. I think I've had enough now. I was getting tired of my mother-in-law's reactions. I decided it was time to tell her the real truth. Well, there's a reason things ended up this way. It's noisy outside with the demolition. Shall we talk inside the house? Reluctantly, my mother-in-law invited me inside. So, what's the reason? Don't make excuses, or I really will call the police. That's what I've been saying. You can call them if you want. It's you who will get arrested. Let's put that aside for now. Can you explain why this is happening? My ex-husband has been stepped in. Fine, I'll explain slowly. Listen, this house was originally bought by me. What? What are you saying? Peter bought it, right? No, what Faith is saying is correct. I didn't buy it. What? Wait a minute. So that means... Yes, I bought this house. So, mother-in-law, you understand now, right? Who owns this house? You mean you? It appeared like my mother-in-law had at last realized the reality. True, but it's no longer mine. Do you know what that signifies? The house is no longer for sale. No, that can't be. Ah, it's nice to hear my mother-in-law, who tormented me so much, speak in such a pitiful manner, but going this far wasn't necessary. You're one to say, no, no, I nearly did. I gave my mother-in-law a sardonic stare as I struggled to contain my laughter. How does it feel to be the target of revenge from your daughter-in-law's ugly maid that you have been taken advantage of for so long? I feel great right now. This is no longer a place where you may reside. Unfortunately, that's why I warned you that if you call the police, you will be taken into custody. That would be encroachment. Hey, that wasn't too far for you to go. Continuing to support your mother, you truly are terribly foolish at this point. Instead, you had better get moving and hunt for a place to reside as soon as possible. Because the interiors need to be cleaned, you will have to depart in less than a month. Apparently, neither my mother-in-law nor my ex-husband had the energy to dispute anymore. With a straight face, I walked out of the house and left the two behind. Wow, it's pretty cleaned up here. Yes, I think we'll call it a day with this much for today. By the way, what were you discussing inside? I was simply asking them two to hurry up and get out of there. We cannot afford any problems at this point as a buyer has been located. Please do not hesitate to call the police if they refuse to leave. Well then, I'll be off. I said the clerk bye and made my way back to my parents' home. Those two had absolutely priceless emotions on their faces, particularly my mother-in-law's dejected attitude. For that alone, selling the house was worthwhile. Serve you right. I joyfully raised my clenched fist to the skies as I soaked in the bath at my parents' house. My cell phone rang 2 weeks later with a message from my ex-husband. A long time has passed. After that, I moved into a cheap flat, so you are no longer concerned about that house. In addition, I've begun to reflect and have secured a contract position as a worker in an auto manufacturing. I feel bad for not acting sooner. You won't return by regretting. Mom has been taking her frustrations on me since you left, and I've come to understand how difficult it was. I can now relate to the difficulties you had. Be careful. You can't cry over spilt milk, as they say. It is at this point that he realizes something is beyond his control. Mother and son are such idiots. They might as well enjoy each other's company. I banned my ex-husband's contact information and erased the message without responding. I want him to stop disturbing me in the future. I'm going to relish my time alone, stress-free living, and doing what I love for a while.